Welcome in. Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in. Your host is Luke Boyd at the Luke Boyd Show here today. Boy, do we have a lot to get to today. Got the NFL awards that happened last night, the regular season awards that is. Got some new NFL Hall of Fame inductees that are going to be presented and having their speeches in August. We got some Hall of Fame snubs to talk about. Got some more stuff going on with the Super Bowl matchup that's going to be happening in a couple of days. And I just want to say that a lot of the background images that you're going to be seeing, all of them came off of Google Images. So, and actually, in fact, all of them came off of Google Images, so that's what a lot of the links down below are going to be in terms of references and stuff like that. So, just for an FYI. But once again, really appreciate all of you guys from wherever you may be, however you may be listening, whatever platform you may be watching this on or listening on. Really appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in. I won't be live tomorrow. I'll be live again on Monday after the Super Bowl, so I hope you guys enjoy the weekend. But before we get into the weekend, and I send you guys off into the weekend, once again, really appreciate you guys for tuning in. We're going to be getting into the awards ceremony that happened last night, and then finishing it off later on in the show with an NBA recap and previews from yesterday's games and going into today's, or going into tonight's games, I should say, in terms of what we're going to be kind of recapping from the last couple of days in terms of what we'll be discussing, because NBA trade deadline kind of finished up yesterday and what those ramifications are going to look like for almost every single team, and kind of what looked like the first night of trade deadline being closed, what that looked like in terms of what happened around the league. And let's get into it, shall we? So yeah, NFL Honors Award ceremony was last night. Let me see if I can just make sure that I got the right thing set up here. There we go. Let me go back to my notes real quick, and then I'm trying to remember the time frame, because I remember that it was on like NBC and Peacock and stuff like that in terms of where you could have watched it last night. I think it was like 7 p.m. Might have been Eastern Standard Time, I think, is when the timing of when the whole award ceremony went down. But in terms of the MVP award ended up going to Matthew Stafford. His stats over the regular season, he was 388, he had 388 completions out of 597 attempts, was a 65% completion percentage, 4,707 yards passing, 46 touchdowns, 8 interceptions at a passer rating of 109. Accolades from regular season was a 12-5 win-to-loss ratio, finished second in the NFC West. Obviously was the starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams, and had himself a season. I think it was probably the first quarterback to reach 4,000 this season as well. If it wasn't him, it was probably either Drake May or Sam Darnold, one of the two. But anyhow, but in terms of postseason, obviously he did pretty well in the postseason as well. leading his team to the NFC Championship. As you guys probably already saw a couple weeks back, did not do so hot in the, or his team did not finish out very well in the NFC Championship. If my thing will load here real quick, I'll get you some postseason stat lines from him, even though the postseason doesn't really matter in terms of this award. It mostly refers to the regular season when it comes to this award. So I'll just kind of give you some postseason stats to kind of go off of, though, in terms of how well he did this postseason. 66 completions over 119 attempts with a 55% completion percentage. And I believe that was over the course of 3 games, I think. 936 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, passer rating of a 94.4. And then taking a look in comparison to Drake May here. Drake May's regular season stats: 354 completions over 492 attempts, 72% completion, 4,394 yards passing. This is for Drake May, by the way. Drake May had 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a passer rating of 113.5. Finished this season with a 14-3 record. Obviously AFC champs and finished first in the AFC East. But just by looking in terms of comparison, Stafford had more attempts and more completions. Did not have the higher completion percentage. Had more completion yards. Had more touchdowns, and both of them finished with the same interceptions. But Drake May ended up finishing with a higher passer rating. And my take on this, I think both of these guys finished with an MVP caliber season. I'm not going to take that away from either of those guys. I think both of these quarterbacks finished with an MVP caliber stat line, season, whatever you want to take a look at it. I think it's just a big, honestly, it was a big moment for both these guys. It's unfortunate that only one player has to win it, obviously. If I had a say in the vote, which, I mean, it's kind of a good thing that I don't, because probably as a Seahawks fan, I probably would have, I probably wouldn't have voted for either of these guys. But in terms of just the comparison between the two, I probably would have voted Matt Stafford on this. Even though I hate to kind of say either one of them, because, I mean, both of them have stats to prove that either one of them could have been the MVP. I don't hate on either one of these guys. I mean, they led their teams to very, very successful seasons. Obviously, one of them was a little bit more successful in the postseason than the other, but I mean, these are tough. And the reason why I say that these are a little bit tougher to really like decipher, and I'm gonna kind of like backtrack a little bit and say this: I don't like when they announce these regular season awards for these players right before the Super Bowl, because to me it makes it seem like the awards, when you announce them this late, makes it seem like this is a postseason and regular season award in terms of how far did you get, in terms of like not only how well you did in the regular season to get to the postseason, but also how far in the postseason did you get that adds validation to the award that you get, that it's really supposed to be a regular season award, right? Like, and how do I put this in a better light? Because Josh Allen ended up getting the award last year, and there were a lot of people that were saying it wasn't, like, he wasn't deserving of it as much, which, yes and no. How do I want to put this? Because in terms of last season, let me just kind of take a look at the stats from 2024 regular season. Because if you take a look, because it was Josh Allen that won the MVP last year, right? Am I wrong? NFL MVP 2024. It was Josh Allen. What the heck? Was it because of touchdowns? I mean, he tied for 7th in touchdowns. What the? What? See, okay. This is not to rank on Josh Allen here, but the fact that, and I'm just kind of looking at stats off of ESPN from last year, right? I don't really have the link in the description for you guys to kind of follow along with it, but if you look online on ESPN doing your research here, like, he ended up finishing because Josh Allen was the MVP last year, right? And where they ended up finishing at the end of the year, yeah, I don't fully agree with it. In my personal opinion, because if this is really supposed to be a regular season stat line, then it really should have been awarded to Joe Burrow, because he tied for fourth. He tied for fourth in completion percentage. Joe Burrow ended up first in passing yards and first in touchdowns. He threw for 4,918 yards, 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, QBR of a 72 point, what's this QBR? Oh, that's an adjusted QBR? Okay, so then his passer rating ended up being 108.5. Joe Burrow did anyway last season. And Josh Allen beat him, even though Josh Allen's completion percentage was lower, a 63.6, with him only throwing for 3,731 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 6 picks. So, like, and his passer rating was a 93.5. So, in terms of it, and why am I bringing this up, right? Because I'm bringing this up because the timing of when they bring out these awards makes it seem like this is a mix. These awards are a mix of postseason and regular season awards. These awards are really only supposed to be regular season based, and I think they got it right this year in terms of MVP. We'll get into the rest of them here in a second, and I think in terms of who got the awards, bar none should have gotten them. Like, I'll get into the rest of the stat lines and reasonings as to why these guys should have gotten the awards. But for this season in general, I think they got it right. Because in terms of like top finishes across the league, in terms of where the quarterbacks are being rated here, Matthew Stafford finished first in yards, in terms of passing yards, touchdowns, finished, where was his completion percentage at? I mean, a little bit lower in completion percentage, but you take out a couple of guys that didn't play as many games, I'd say he's like roughly top 10 in completion percentage among starting quarterbacks. This is just going off the cusp, just because it doesn't really show exact. It shows like all the quarterbacks as a whole, and not like taking out guys that didn't start every single game in the regular season or whatever. But he also ended up with a 109.2 passer rating. I think we kind of went over that part already, but basically first in every single category outside of completion percentage, I think. Actually second in QBR rating, because Drake May was just above him with 113.5, which, I mean, again, just looking at both of these guys, they compare very, very well, and I would have assumed that this would have been a tight race in terms of who was voting for who, in terms of the MVP race, because, I mean, you look at how both these guys played, and you look at the highlights of how they played the entire season, like, it's a really tight race between both of them. And I think they got it right in terms of Matthew Stafford winning it, but I mean, Drake May has wonderful opportunities not only this weekend, but for his future as well, because he has multiple opportunities to continue to be in this race. And I would be shocked if Drake May is not back in this MVP conversation next season, or at this point next year. Just because I have a feeling that regardless of what happens on Sunday, the Patriots are going to be right back where they were to this point when it comes to next season, because we're down to the last game and we're kind of talking almost basically off season at this point across all of media. So, yeah. Anyhow. Making sure that that's still running smoothly here. And then going on to our Offensive Player of the Year, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks that was kind of doubted at the very beginning of the season. I will personally admit myself, I did not know exactly how well the Seattle Seahawks were going to perform, especially with all the offseason moves that Seattle made, including releasing Tyler Lockett, moving off of Jamal Adams, moving off of Geno Smith, and acquiring Sam Darnold. There were a lot of people in the media that were counting out the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, me personally, I knew that Seattle was still going to find ways to compete, but I did not expect them to really do much in terms of because I knew that. How do I put this to make it sound? Because here's the thing, right? And I know I didn't talk about this at all at the very beginning of this season, so it's gonna make it sound like I'm being completely biased. But I had originally thought at the beginning of the season with all their moves and stuff like that, that Seattle was not going to be in the number one spot. I knew that they were still going to compete in the NFC West. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, let alone, like, I mean, for them to be in the Super Bowl at this point is like, I mean, they're just putting icing on the cake at this point. Because, I mean, I had a feeling that they were going to compete in all the games that they were playing in, on top of the fact that I knew that they were going to potentially make playoffs, if not just based off of how well they were going to, you know, play winning wise against, you know, the teams that they were going to play against. But I was not expecting them to get the number one seed. I was not expecting them to get home field advantage. I didn't even expect them to, like I'm kind of saying earlier, I wasn't even expecting them to make the Super Bowl. Like, they have basically to this point overexceeded my expectations of how well they were going to perform this season. So, like I said yesterday, even though I'm predicting Seattle to win this game because I feel like they have a slight edge over the New England Patriots in a lot of different ways. I don't know exactly who has the better special teams because that might be a factor here as well. But you take a look at the way that Seattle has been playing throughout the entire season and whatnot. You give the slight better O-line to Seattle. You give the slight better defense to Seattle. You give the slight better, you know, offensive production to Seattle. I mean, Drake in terms of quarterback, you might give that to the Patriots, but we'll see what happens on Sunday. But anyhow, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Offensive Player of the Year, well-deserved, completely turned himself into not only a number one receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, but in my personal opinion has become an elite wide receiver in the NFL. Prove me wrong, right? Prove me wrong. He had 119 receptions for dang close to 2,000 yards, ended up with 1,793 yards and 10 touchdowns. Like, I don't know what more you want from JSN from this past season to really prove that he is like an elite wide receiver at this point. Because I don't really know. I don't know what else anybody can really say, but at this at this point, it's like he is an elite receiver. If not, you could probably make an argument for him being part of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL right now. Like, bar none. Because, really, the discussion was probably in terms of who the vote was. It was probably between Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith-Njigba. And, obviously either player would have been well deserving of this award. And very grateful, and I'm not going to really say surprised at this point, because with how well he played throughout the rest of the season, it looks really good on the resume. But what else can I really say about JSN, right? If I were, not that I were to make a top 10 wide receivers, and maybe we'll discuss this next week in terms of maybe way too early top 10 wide receivers going into 2026-2027 season. But I think you can make a valid argument that JSN is definitely in the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. Like, that's how elite this guy is. And maybe I'll wait for Super Bowl to really confirm my case. But let me know what you guys think. And yeah, Offensive Player of the Year, JSN. Heck of a good player, dude. And then, yeah. What else do I need to say about this? Yeah, I think that's it with this one. And then moving on to the Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns. Stat line from the regular season had 43 solo tackles, 17 assisted tackles, ended up with 60 total tackles, 33 tackles for a loss, and 23 sacks. He ends up finishing the season as the league's now number one sack leader in the entire NFL. I remember watching NFL Red Zone towards the end of the season. I think it was like week 17 or 18, where basically the entire league was on watch to see if he was going to get that record. And lo and behold, he ended up gets that record right before the end of the season. So congratulations to Garrett to get to this point in his career. Unfortunately for him, I feel bad that he's a part of the Cleveland Browns in a sense, because a lot has been happening over the past, not a lot of good stuff has happened for the Cleveland Browns over the past few years, and for him to get this is kind of a much needed award for him. And maybe they do have a little bit of a bright future ahead, because not only did he get an award, but it sounds like one of their rookies as well, one of their rookie linebackers got an award as well, and we'll get to that here in a moment. But yeah, let me just kind of take a look at the defensive stat lines real quick. You can make an argument. I think you could have made an argument for Jordan Brooks as well. Let me see, how many interceptions? Kevin Bynard III from Chicago, you could have made an argument for him as well. Outside of that, maybe Brian Burns, but, hands down, when your accolade title of the regular season, outside of all the stats that you can throw out to people to, make cases and stuff like that, once you become like a NFL leader in just any category in terms of how many sacks you get in a season and stuff like that, or even tackles for that matter, it almost, I wouldn't say 100% guarantees you, but it pretty much guarantees a runaway victory in terms of getting the award. And very, very deserving of this award is Myles Garrett. So hats off to Garrett for having one heck of a season. I think he ended up playing in all 17 games as well. So kudos to him. Unfortunately, the Browns didn't finish out the season as well as they had wanted to. But that's the Cleveland Browns for you, I guess. So yeah, not much to really else talk about there. I don't really have a lot of unfortunate disclaimers or really a lot of arguments against this one. This was kind of a no-brainer in my mind, and I guess chat, you guys can let me know if there were main arguments for other players that you think could have hit the spotlight, if you will. Yeah, this to me was a no-brainer in terms of who won this award. But anyhow, yeah, let me know if you guys think differently. But moving on to Offensive Rookie of the Year. Wide receiver coming out of Carolina. Teora. Is that how you say it? Give me like 30 seconds, chat. Let me make sure I'm spelling it right too. I'm gonna make sure I'm saying this name correctly because I don't. Crap. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I had it right in my head, but I just want to make sure that I'm saying this right. Tetiroya. Also. Tetiroya. Or Tetiroa. Tetiroa. Okay. Tetiroya McMillan. Well, the Carolina Panthers ended up being the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Finished the season with 70 receptions for 1,014 yards, 7 touchdowns, and was first among rookies in every single category, including receptions, yards, and touchdowns. So, just by that, I mean, if you kind of take a look at... Oh, let's see. Let's just go back to offense real quick. Go back to the rushing real quick. Rookies. Not a lot of rookies. I think Ashton Genty was pretty sure Ashton Genty was probably the best rookie running back, but even he didn't really have much of a breakout season, so in comparison between which rookie really performed better, I don't think it's even a close race in this one either. Just because of the, receptions and yeah. I mean, among rookies, if you're finishing first in all the stat lines that are necessary for a wide receiver, which also translated into the Carolina Panthers winning their division and making playoffs. Hang on, let me double check my facts that I'm giving to you real quick because I want to make sure that I'm correct here because I want to say that that's correct, that they were... Yes. With the way that he played as a Carolina Panther and with the way that they ended up finishing out the season, it's no shock, and there's not a lot of discrepancy in my personal opinion when you finish out the season that well with a great amount of stats across the board, and you're first in every single category among rookies. Like, hard to really hard to really vote against you at that point. You know what I'm saying? Carolina Panthers, it was the first time that the Panthers ended up being the division winners since Cam Newton back in 2015 season, I think. Something like that. Anyhow, but yeah, again, no complaints there. Moving on to the Defensive Rookie of the Year, also a Cleveland Brown. This is Carson Schweisinger, linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. Finished out the season with 67 solo tackles, 89 assisted tackles, 156 total tackles, 2.5 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss, and 2 interceptions. Let me just do a real quick Google stats and rankings among rookies. He ended up finishing first among rookies in total tackles, first in tackles for losses, tied for second in interceptions. Had 7 double-digit tackle games and was on the field for 97% of defensive snaps. So had a total of 956 snaps apparently, which is crazy. Two different, I don't really know if that really means anything, but anyhow, I was just kind of reading some stuff on the Google, but yeah, once again, not really any complaints with this one here. Again, I don't really have off the top of my head a ton of rookies. Well, actually, I take that back. So Nick Emmanwori was also a part of the conversation of Rookie of the Year as well. And, yeah, I don't... As much as I like him in Seattle, it's... This is fitting. This is fitting. When you're... and again, when you're first in a lot of the categories among rookies... in terms of regular season stats and stuff like that, it's very, very tough to vote against you at that point. So very deserving, very well done, Carson. And hey, I mean, Cleveland Browns, in terms of the upside for you guys this season, you got a couple of players that ended up finishing out with a couple of awards. So hats off to you. Well done. And then Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year, I believe, was probably between Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel, and the winner ends up being Mike Vrabel of the New England Patriots, who were all who finished out the season, kind of like I was discussing earlier when we were talking about Drake May here, finished the regular season with a 14-3 record. Obviously, AFC champs. They got the Super Bowl appearance. They are 2 days away from playing in the Super Bowl right now. A lot of, how do I say this? A lot of media outlets and journalists are saying that they are, and actually one outlet in particular that I've been listening to has, in terms of the Herd with Colin Cowherd, has been kind of putting the Patriots in the light of, yes, they're still in a rebuild, but with where they're at this year, they are about a year ahead of schedule in terms of not being in quote-unquote a rebuild anymore. Because, I mean, when you look at the way that they started out the season, if I remember correctly, I think it was 1-2, because they lost to... I want to say the Steelers and Raiders. But they ended up finishing out the season with one other loss, and that was to the Bills in a very close game, a 35-31 loss there. But outside of that, basically beating their opponents pretty soundly. But I mean, once again, you can even make a valid argument for Ben Johnson too, because Chicago, I mean, I didn't really, well, how do I put this? I didn't really focus too much on a lot of other teams in terms of where I would have them. I was kind of more or less only focused on Seattle because Seattle's kind of like my team in a sense, or at least the team that I root for on the 9 times out of 10. 10 times out of 10. Why did I say 9 times out of 10? Anyhow, kind of a dummy. But yeah, let me just take a look at what Ben Johnson did with the Bears real quick, to kind of make a case for Ben Johnson here. So, in terms of one of the reasons why I would have voted for Ben Johnson is because Chicago was kind of down in the dumps organization for the past few years, hadn't really found that spark. They end up finishing out this season 11-6, being the first in the NFC North. This is probably, if I remember correctly, Bears 2025 season accolades. Yeah, so Ben Johnson, in terms of making the case for Ben Johnson to have also been the coach of the year, if it were that discussion between both of them, you take a look at the Chicago Bears season. They finished 11-6, winning the NFC North and achieving their first playoff win since 2010. I think a lot of people have been writing off the Chicago Bears in terms of even having any playoff, I guess prescription, or not prescriptions, but I guess any playoff hopes, just because it seems like for the past few years they could just never get the quarterback right. And even I kind of thought that they, once again, didn't get the quarterback right in Caleb Williams, at least with the past couple of seasons. Because, I mean, there was a lot of hype when they got Caleb Williams number 1. And I was kind of just like, I mean, yeah, they got a quarterback, but we'll see how well this actually works out, because typically the Bears don't draft quarterbacks very well. And I mean, hey, they might have gotten the coach and the quarterback right here in terms of how well they finished this past season, but we'll have to take a look at next season and see if that changes at all. But that's kind of the case that I'll make, is that the fact that the Bears have been, kind of back to being a different version of Chicago Bears, if you will. But they've also got a tough division as well, because they have to face the Packers twice, the Vikings twice, and the Lions twice. It's not anything short of an easy schedule at all for them. So for them to even get an 11-6 and being first in the NFC North is kind of a crazy thing to think about. Because I think they were just shy of 2 teams making the playoffs, I think. Did they just add a new... Is Protector of the Year the first... Is this the first time they've awarded Protector of the Year? And we'll get to that in a second, but... Top offensive lineman, pushback. Okay, so yeah, so this was the first... Yeah, so this was the first ever Protector... Okay, so when we get to that, we'll say that. Okay, cool. But yeah, I mean... In terms of where the Patriots are at right now and how well Mike Vrabel has been doing as a head coach for the Patriots, man, this matchup come Sunday is going to be one to... History's in the making. Is going to be one to watch, and I really hope that it stays... I mean, I kind of don't want to be... I don't want it to be close for Seattle's sake, but I also wanted to be close to make it, you know, still interesting, because obviously with, you know, both these teams, how well both these teams have played to this point, I would hate to see that one get blown out in the Super Bowl. It just wouldn't look good, but we'll see. But congratulations to Mike Vrabel for getting Coach of the Year. Very, very well deserved. You can't really say much else about him. I mean, he's been kind of the players' coach all season long. Just kind of seeing him interact with his players and stuff like that is pretty... How do I say this? It's something different, and it's something that you don't usually see every single day out of a head coach. And maybe for me that's mostly because I've been watching a lot of what Pete Carroll does and stuff like that, and so I'm kind of used to what his interactions with players are. But seeing a lot of Bill Belichick and Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan and the Harbaughs, even, like, there's just a different personality about Vrabel that, I mean, this is well deserved for sure. But anyhow, moving on to Comeback Player of the Year. Comeback Player of the Year falls to Christian McCaffrey. I think he tore his ACL about a season ago, if not 2 seasons ago. Finished out this regular season with 311 carries, 1,202 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, what else can I really say about this guy? For him to come back from an ACL injury, and with all the injuries that the 49ers have been dealing with all season long, for him to just do that, and I think he has the most carries of any running back in the NFL in the regular season this past year. So, or just in terms of this past regular season, that is. I mean, it's kind of crazy to come back from an ACL injury and just do that. I could be wrong on the timeline. But I want to say that that's correct. Yeah, I want to say that that's correct in terms of how long he's been gone from the NFL and when he came back. But before we get into this next one, I want to get a little bit more information real quick, so stay tuned. because we're getting into the Walter Payton Man of the Year here real quick. But yeah, just, I mean, as you guys could kind of also tell with the way that the 49ers finished out the rest of the season, they ended up finishing third in the NFC West. They had a very high record. I think it was a 12-5 record is what they finished with. Ended up making playoffs and falling short to the Seattle Seahawks in the divisional round. Just been a solid season for McCaffrey and the 49ers, even with all the injuries that they had all season long. So, well-deserved. I don't really have any other players off the top of my head that would even be in the discussion. But anyhow, well-deserved. Congratulations, Christian McCaffrey. And give me like 30 seconds here to add some more information on the next award here. Got it. Okay. So, yep. So, Man of the Year went to Bobby Wagner. 14-year veteran recognized for his outstanding community work, including the creation of the Fania May Fund for Stroke Awareness, honoring his late mother. 10-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All-Pro. Consistently excelled on the field throughout his career. Looks like he's got a bonus coming his way to the charity of his choice, so it's probably going to be the one that he's been working with this past year. His stats from this past regular season had 79 solo tackles, 83 assisted tackles, 162 total tackles with 4.5 sacks, 8 tackles for a loss, and 2 interceptions. So a solid outing with him and the Commanders this past season. Even though they were riddled with injuries as well. It was just kind of an unfortunate end to the season for them. They ended up finishing 5-12, third in the NFC East. But yeah, kind of like the 49ers, they just had way too many injuries kind of plague them this season. So if anything, I have a feeling, well, we'll get into way too early predictions for next season, next week as well, I think. But if I had to hedge my bets, I think the Commanders are going to be one of the teams that might change up their win percentage next season as long as everybody stays healthy. But yeah, anyhow, congratulations, Bobby Wagner, the former Seattle Seahawk, now Washington Commander. I don't know if he's a free agent or not after Sunday, but there's a possibility that he might be on the market for a different team next season, but who knows? I could be completely wrong. But anyhow, moving on to the first ever Protector of the Year award, and the recipient of that award ends up going to the Chicago Bears tackle Joe Thuney. Finished the year with a stat line of 0 sacks allowed, only 1 quarterback hit over the course of 14 pressures. His overall guard grade was a 79.4%, ranked 5th among other guards in the NFL. He had a pass blocking percentage of an 88.6, ranked 1st, and then a run block percentage of a 71%, ranked 19th. Was also named first team All-Pro, a Pro Bowler, and obviously first ever recipient of the Protector of the Year award, which is well done. I don't even really know what else to say about that. I mean, this award possibly puts Joe Tooney as a top potential recipient for once he if he ends up retiring, because he was a former chief for a while, and I don't really know how many more seasons he's got left under his belt, but this award alone probably puts him in the category of potential first ballot Hall of Famer, possibly, which we'll get into Hall of Fame inductees here in a moment. But yeah, anyhow, we got but yeah, once again, really appreciate all you guys tuning in so far. We got second hour coming up momentarily. I do have to step away for just a moment so I can grab some water real quick. Stay tuned, and we'll get into the NFL inductees in terms of the Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame snubs and stuff like that. We got a lot more to cover, so don't go away. I'll be right back. Don't hesitate to, while I'm gone though, hit that like button, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, and don't hesitate to share this with the people that you know, so that you guys don't miss a beat of this, and spread the word to people that you know, and especially if you guys like the content, don't hesitate to let them know about it. So I will be back momentarily to grab some water, but just give me just a couple minutes, and I'll be back with you guys shortly. Alrighty, we are into hour 2. Appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in. Before I get into the Hall of Fame inductees, I know you're seeing them on the screen and whatnot. I wanted to kind of take it back a little bit in terms of bringing to light something that I would probably change of the Hall of Fame system. Because it seems to me, and I think a lot of people in the media, they want the Hall of Fame voting selection to be changed, and I don't personally blame them, but what does that solution look like? How I personally would start this is I would take a look at and just kind of separate players. You got the coaches, and then you got the ownership, GM, executive level. You would separate it into 3 different tiers, I guess, if you will. And then from there, you would, and I'm just kind of thinking about this on the fly too. So maybe I'm wrong in the way that I'm approaching this. But I think you still stick with 5. You still stick with 5 players, right? And then depending on how many coaches you have, I mean, maybe there's only one coach, and yeah, let's vote that coach in, or don't vote that coach in, depending on how whoever is in the voting selection, because it sounds like with the changes that they've made in terms of how the voting goes and stuff like that, they've shortened the time span where a coach can enter or can be put on the ballot only a year after after they retire from being in the NFL, which I can see both sides of the situation where you want, because what was the coach name? It's not, because Jimmy Johnson went on the Colin Cowherd show. It was a day after the news broke out about Bill Belichick not getting into the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. And he went onto that show, and I think he made a very good point that coaches, when they exit the league, whether it be retirement or whatever, they're much older than when the players end up retiring. So it makes sense that when the players retire, in my opinion, that it still is, let's wait 5 years, just in case any of them do want to come back, say, for example, Phillip Rivers, coming back literally and kind of resetting that 5-year clock. And there's a couple other examples that I'm not really, I'm kind of blanking off the top of my head in terms of who comes back sooner. I think Phillip Rivers is probably the first one in years that a player has retired from the NFL and then came back just before he could be, put into the Hall of Fame voting ballot. But when it comes to coaches, I can totally see that you take a look at how much older they are compared to the players and be like, okay, yes, let's try to get the coaches in sooner so that we don't, wait too long and then have them, end up being inducted after they're, gone from this world. For lack of better terminology. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, yes, I 100% agree, but I think a lot of people would be on board with me when I say I think the whole system of the way that they go about the voting and stuff like that, something's got to change, because I think after this last couple of weeks, there's a lot of people that are upset and probably still upset to this day, even, that a guy like Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft got snubbed. We'll talk a little bit more about, the accolades of both these guys here momentarily and the comparison between them and who's already in the Hall of Fame in comparison between both these coaches and owners. But how unreasonable is it? You know what I mean? Like, how unreasonable, or is it reasonable to change the system to where instead of having everybody as a whole and only selecting 5 players or players and coaches or players, coaches and owners every single year, you separate the coaches away from the players that way? Because you don't want just anybody to be in the Hall of Fame, right? The Hall of Fame is meant for, and you can kind of see it in the players that have just been inducted, the way that they impacted their team, but also in the rest of the accolades that they have. Because, back when Kuechly, Fitzgerald, Breeze, and Vinatieri were all in the NFL, and even Roger Craig, like, with how long he's been on the ballot for the Hall of Fame and is just now getting into the Hall of Fame, like, the Pro Bowl meant something. And when years go by and we kind of look into the rest of the accolades of when the now present day players go into the Hall of Fame, how much does the Pro Bowl actually mean something when it comes to accolades going into the voting realm of potential Hall of Famers, right? Like, very lucky are a lot of us that were able to see Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald both play in the eras that they did and for the amount of seasons that they did for their respective teams. And very deserving of first ballot Hall of Famers. I would be very if I'm going to be honest with you, I think there's probably some players even this year that could have potentially been first ballot Hall of Famers, but because of how limited, and granted that all of these were players, so it's kind of hard for me to really make my case in terms of, adding or subtracting how many people you want to vote in, but just strictly off of players alone, I feel like if there were more players that you could vote in, you probably can and should vote them in. I don't know why there needs to be a holdup in terms of how many people that should go into the Hall of Fame. I understand that you want to limit the Hall of Fame to guys that, you know, actually made impacts regardless of what teams that they're on or whatever the Hall of Fame eligibility requirements or other requirements that are involved and stuff like that. But let me just kind of look at Hall of Fame finalists real quick. Come on. I can't really see from that. I can't really see from that either. Anyhow, and I'm kind of losing track of what I was trying to say, but the whole, like, is it unnecessary for me to really ask the question of, is there any way that the NFL Hall of Fame can add more? Because I'd be willing to bet you that there's some players that were finalists that could have very easily, and maybe they aren't first ballot Hall of Famers, some of them, but for some of them that have been on the ballot already multiple different times, why should they hold off for a whole nother year? Because the spots in terms of how many inductees get in is only limited to 5. Like, I'm taking a look at this right now, like Frank Gore, Terrell Suggs, Jason Witten. Those are at least 3 guys. I mean, even Eli Manning. Maybe not a first ballot Hall of Famer, Eli Manning, but those are at least 3 guys in the Hall of Fame finalist list that got posted on Good Morning Football or whatever, that I think would be well deserving of Hall of Fame votes, if not being entered into the Hall of Fame. And I get it. I think I'm kind of repeating myself when I say this, but you don't want the Hall of Fame to just be to, you know, any player, right? You want to make sure that, you know, all the accolades that they've gotten over their careers are well deserving of actual votes and actual entrances into the Hall of Fame based off of said votes, right? So, I mean, I think there at least needs to be some sort of change with the way that it's gone, because you separate the coaches from the players that way. And especially if the coaches are going to be entered in basically 1 year after they retire. I mean, the other side of the argument is that the Hall of Fame shouldn't have switched that up to where all the coaches now will have to still play the waiting game just like all the other coaches before them, which I can understand that, but in my personal opinion, I think they need to just change the structure and keep the players separate from the coaches and the owners. And maybe you have the coaches and the owners or coaches and executives in a separate category, or maybe you have the coaches in their own category, and then you have the executives and owners in their own category as well. I don't know. But my personal opinion, I would just make sure that you separate the players from the coaches and owners, just because I think there's at least a couple of players that really can and should get in, and maybe even add more players. I don't know. What do you guys think? Because there is a lot of discussion, and there has been a lot of discussion as of late in terms of what the Hall of Fame has looked like, if it is a snub, if the Hall of Fame doesn't mean anything anymore. Because I can understand why Pro Bowl selections won't mean anything in the future, but that might be a recency bias because the players, why they've kind of changed it to flag football was obviously for safety and stuff like that, but in terms of before that, a lot of guys weren't, to the mainstream's perspective, didn't seem to be taking it seriously. But that could be just me from an outside perspective, overthinking and looking from the outside in and taking things out of context that really aren't that way, and it's actually in a different light. But I could be wrong. But anyhow, getting into the Hall of Famers that finished out last night, or that got announced and inducted last night. We're going to be starting off with Larry Fitzgerald of the Arizona Cardinals. Played for the Arizona Cardinals as the number one wide receiver from 2004 to 2020. He enters this 2026 class as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Accolades include 11-time Pro Bowler, first team All-Pro in 2008, NFL Offensive Player of the Year in 2008, also was a Pro Bowl MVP in 2008, was a two-time second team All-Pro, Walter Payton Man of the Year in 2016, 2010's All-Decade Team, and the 100th Anniversary All-Time Team in terms of being a part of that all-time team. Career milestones, he is second all-time in receiving yards and receptions, sixth all-time in reception touchdowns, and leads the Cardinal franchise in all receiving stats, regular season and postseason. Regular season and postseason, both in receiving yards and touchdowns. And I have a feeling he's going to be a Cardinal Hall of Famer as well. I don't know how that all works in Arizona, but definitely one that I kind of enjoyed watching, even though he played in the Cardinals uniform. Just kind of reflecting back a little bit, played very well. I think there was a Super Bowl or two that he helped the Cardinals get to. I think one of them in particular, I'm kind of going back. I mean, maybe it was an NFC Championship game. The Cardinals played against the Green Bay Packers, and it was Aaron Rodgers at quarterback at the time. I think for the Cardinals, it was either Kurt Warner or Carson Palmer. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, just one heck of a player. One of the guys that, as a receiver, you can tell that he just gives consistency game in, game out, day in, day out, practice wise. Kind of like Oh, what's a good... Oh, there's not really a good today's version comparison. I mean, in terms of loyalty to one team, you could probably say Lockett, because Lockett was with the same team for a while, but Fitzgerald wasn't much of a slot receiver. If I remember correctly, he mostly played on the wide out. Deep ball threat, route running was off the charts. One-on-one coverage, he beats you over the top every single time. Yeah, I don't think there's really much more to say, and I don't think you can really say enough about how good of a player this guy was for the Cardinals. And I mean, ever since he hasn't played for them, I don't think the Cardinals have really found a way to either find a guy like him or find a team that has had as much success as the teams that the Arizona Cardinals had while Fitzgerald was playing for them. A lot of playoff appearances, a lot of conference championship appearances as well. I think there's even a Super Bowl appearance in there as well. Because I want to say he was part of the team when the Cardinals went up against the Steelers, I thought. Yeah, 2004. So that sounds right. I could be completely wrong about that. But anyhow, congratulations once again though to Larry Fitzgerald. Welcome into the Hall of Fame. Welcome into Canton, Ohio. Well deserved, well appreciated first ballot Hall of Famer. Can't say enough about that guy. Yeah. Probably one of the more hated... Probably one of the guys that I didn't really like all that much when he played against us in Seattle. But, yeah. Really cool cat for sure. Anyhow, moving on to the next Hall of Famer, Luke Kuechly out of Carolina. I believe this is a second ballot Hall of Fame for Luke Kuechly. Played for the Carolina Panthers 2012 to 2019. Super Bowl 50 starter. At least one Super Bowl appearance for the 7-time Pro Bowler, 7-time All-Pro selection, 5 first teams, and 2 times second team All-Pro. Defensive Player of the Year back in 2013, Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2012, 2010's All-Decade Team as well. Led the NFL in total tackles in 2012 and 2014. Had 8 consecutive seasons with 100-plus tackles and is tied for the single game tackle record and was the first rookie in 2012 to lead the NFL in tackles since 2007. I don't know if there's been a rookie since that has gotten that accolade since then, but if anyone wants to let me know in the chat, give me a website, let me know if that is incorrect and fact check me on that. That would be awesome. But yeah, Carolina for 7 seasons. I was kind of hoping it was going to be more, but Just a solid all-around linebacker. Kind of funny that he has my first name. So, obviously I liked the guy. The way that he plays, if I'm just remembering some highlights off the top of my head, just a solid all-around Panther. I mean, you can't say enough about this guy, even though the Panthers haven't really shown a lot of signs of, I guess, fortune, if you will, due to the past few years. He definitely was a force and a leader on the defense that helped out a lot with allowing his defense's success in the NFC South. And I think there were a decent amount of playoff runs. I know there was definitely one when Cam Newton was the quarterback of that team. There was a... Oh, gosh. I don't know if they made playoffs in 2012, but I'm assuming with how well that he played in 2012, they probably did. They probably didn't go very far. I just don't remember that season off the top of my head very well because it was like 14 years ago now. But anyhow, I was also in like 5th or 6th grade or something like that. Anyhow, yeah, that's kind of wild to think about. Anyhow, yeah, congratulations, Luke Kuechly. Welcome into the Hall of Fame, brother. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot else I can really say much about this guy. It's awesome that he's in the Hall of Fame, so congratulations. Next Hall of Famer, also a second ballot Hall of Famer as well, Adam Vinatieri. This was one of the guys that obviously from a fantasy perspective, was kind of an old reliable, if you will. But just going through his accolades, he played from 1996 to 2019. A 4-time Super Bowl champ, a 3-time Pro Bowl selection, 3-time first team All-Pro, 2000s All-Decade team, and part of the 100th anniversary all-time team. 24 seasons in the league, 10 seasons with the Patriots, 14 with the Colts. Longest field goal he made in his tenure. Was 57 yards. Had game-winning field goals in Super Bowls 36 and 38. Had a career field goal percentage of an 84% and a career extra point percentage at 97. So he's a solid accuracy. He was a solid accuracy field goal kicker, and kind of surprised he was in the league for as long as he was in for. But just a solid all-around career from him. I don't really have much else to say about him as a kicker. I mean, he, like Joe Flacco, and there's some other kickers off the top of my head that I'm forgetting about. Chris Boswell. They're all Hall of Famers in my opinion, but I mean, obviously once we get into the later years they'll probably be showing up here. We'll be talking a lot more about them here later on. But anyhow, congratulations, Vinatieri. And welcome to the Hall of Fame. Second ballot Hall of Famer, Adam Vinatieri. I think I've been saying his last name wrong my entire life. Because I thought it was like Vinatieri, but the way that it's spelled on paper, it almost looks like it's spelled Vinatieri. Which is like, I mean, not that it's bad, it's just kind of crazy that it seems like, looking at it on paper for like the first time in a while, that it's like, wow, that's actually how his last name is spelled, and I've been saying it wrong the whole time, that not only was he in the NFL, but just even to this point. I was like, dang, I've been saying it wrong this whole time, like, and nobody wanted to correct me on this, like, kind of wild. And then the fourth inductee into the Hall of Fame, Roger Craig. Now, I did not know or see much about this guy because, or about this player, excuse me, because he played from 1983 to 1993. So any 49ers fans in the chat want to, you know, kind of, that have seen this guy play, because he's also a 49er Hall of Famer. If you guys want to let me know in the chat what you guys saw of him and how good of a player he was and whatnot, don't hesitate to just drop it in the chat of how good of a player he was and what you guys saw out of him, and even across the even fans across the league, if you guys want to drop in what you guys saw from Roger Craig, what you guys disliked most about his ability to run the football and whatnot, and because Roger Craig was a 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowler, Offensive Player of the Year in 1988, 2-time All-Pro, a first team and a second team. His first team came in 1988 and his second team came in 1985. He was part of the 1980s All-Decade team, and kind of like how I said earlier, is part of the 49ers Hall of Fame. Part of his career milestones in 1985, became the first player to have not only 1,000 yards rushing, but also 1,000 yards receiving in a single season. He ended that season with 1,050 yards rushing and 1,016 yards receiving, and was also the first player to score 3 touchdowns in a Super Bowl. And that was Super Bowl 19. I believe that that's correct. So a lot of special accolades from this guy. And once again, I don't really have much else to really say about him because I didn't really see him play. But for those of you that did see him play and want to drop a bunch of memories that you guys saw from seeing him play in the NFL, don't hesitate to drop those into the comment section. And yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this guy. So congratulations again, 49er running back Roger Craig. And moving on to the final inductee of the Hall of Fame, quarterback from the New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees. Drafted in 2001, I believe, by the Chargers, and then was traded to the Saints for Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers was also in the same draft class, I believe. And Drew Brees went on to play for the Saints from 2001 to 2020. Accolades include Super Bowl 44 champ and MVP. This is also him being a part of the first ballot Hall of Fame. 13-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Offensive Player of the Year back in 2008 and 2011. Was a 2004 Comeback Player of the Year. Was a 2006 Walter Payton Man of the Year. Is a 5-time All-Pro selection and holds the NFL record for consecutive games with a passing touchdown at 54. Also holds the season record for most completions in a season. That was back in 2016 at 471 completions. He also holds the record for career 300-plus passing yards in a game, I'm assuming. Career games with 300-plus passing yards. And that's at 123. And his second all-time in passing yards and touchdowns. So, huge set of Hall of Famers once again that just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. I don't really know what else to say about all of these guys. Drew Brees, to see him as a New Orleans Saints for the longest time in terms of that era, like 19 seasons, that's a long time. Dang near 20 seasons just with the Saints alone it was incredible. I don't really have a lot else to say about Drew Brees specifically, just because I'm just trying to recall a lot of highlights that I remember of him playing in the NFL, but with him playing as well as he did and for as long as he did, it just it makes you kind of wonder with where the Saints are playing at now and how well they just haven't been having as much success. Just looking back at where the Saints were when Drew Brees was playing for them, like, they had way more success, obviously, but there was a reason why they had a lot more success. I think Drew Brees was kind of like I'm not gonna say is the Tom Brady, but is Tom Brady-esque in terms of he was more of a pocket passer. And I think back when he was playing, that was kind of the repertoire of quarterbacks back then, was pocket passing. Nobody better, and I don't think there's going to be anybody better in the New Orleans Saints camp that is going to top off how good of a quarterback that Drew Brees was for the extent period of time that he played for them, along with along with all the other accolades that attributed to this first ballot Hall of Fame for Drew. And what a storyline, what a storybook ending for him as well. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy that I forgot that he was a Super Bowl champ and MVP as well. Because I knew he played for the Saints for forever, it seemed. But yeah, I just didn't even remember him winning the Super Bowl. But that was also because I was really young at the time. Because 44 was what? 16 years ago? Right? Because we're at Super Bowl 60. 44 was 16 Super Bowls ago. Oh, so I was 10? So I was back in 2010? 2011? So yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I was so young when he won his Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. That's kind of wild. Anyhow, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Drop down in the comments and share your favorite memories of all these Hall of Fame inductees in the chat. Also really appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in to the stream. Really appreciate all of you guys for watching. If you like what you're seeing, don't hesitate to drop in to the comment section, hit that follow button, hit that like and subscribe. And if you really like what we're doing, don't hesitate to share this with your friends. Let them know that this show is a thing. I think I messed up on hitting the recording audio, so won't be posting a audio version to Spotify, but been trying to gonna try to be consistent is my goal here. We're gonna be getting into and you know what? Let's actually just get into it right now, I think. So, one of the biggest Hall of Fame snubs that a lot of people have been talking about over the past week, Bill Belichick. Highly renowned head coach for the New England Patriots over the past I can't remember all the seasons off the top of my head when he first became head coach, but obviously was the head coach during the tenure of Tom Brady being with the Patriots and all the Super Bowls that they won there. I think he's like a 6-time Super Bowl champ. I can't remember the rest of the accolades off the top of my head, but anyhow, the way that I kind of see this is, and I think in terms of the proposed solution that I've kind of laid out, should kind of solve any doubt in terms of whether or not certain coaches and even owners should or shouldn't get in, right? Like, I mean, there's certain people that were also saying, like, hey, maybe the Hall of Fame in terms of the voting should be, okay, you lay out all these players and you're voting on all of them in terms of yes or no, in terms of whether or not they make the Hall of Fame, right? And then if, say, X player gets 80% of the vote, then yes, he's in to the Hall of Fame, right? Like, I mean, is that unreasonable? Or like, and I mean, if in terms of the way that I see it, right? Like, if you separate the categories between in terms of the vote categories between player and coaches and executives in a separate category, like you set them away from the players, that way it's, and maybe you even add, or you change it into that said system of you're voting for all the players that are in, but with however many that you're voting for or whatever, if they get over a certain threshold or percentage, maybe it's 80%, maybe it's 90%, I don't know how many votes they deal with, because it sounds like they go from like a certain pool down to like a semi-finalist pool down to a finalist pool, and then from there they pick the 5, it looks like. But if they were to like just switch the categories a little bit and just keep, everybody still in those same, like, in the same threshold of voting, except you do like a yes or no on these certain people instead of just voting for like a set amount of specific people, because what it sounded like is they only were allowed to vote for just 5 people as a whole, regardless if you were a coach or a player or an owner even. Like, it was just, you're voting for 5 and that's it. That's the way that it sounds anyway. And as long as you got, I think, 40 out of the 50, then you're in. And it sounded like Bill Belichick ended up falling out of 11. Like 11 people didn't vote for him at least. So, I mean, did I think he gets snubbed of a first ballot Hall of Famer? Yeah. Do I think he's eventually going to get in? Same with Robert Kraft? Absolutely. I think both these guys are both going to get in eventually. It's just only a matter of time. With the Robert Kraft situation, the thing that I'm confused about is the fact that how is it that, and maybe it's just the fact that it's so limited on how many people can enter into the Hall of Fame every single year, right? Like maybe that's what's held both Belichick and Robert Kraft back from getting into the Hall of Fame for this year, because I think a lot of people, including myself, look at this as a potential sought out instant gratification, I guess, if you will. And the fact that both Belichick and Robert Kraft both didn't get in says a lot, right? Like if Brady were to get in, or excuse me, if Brady is on the ballot in 2028, I think, is when he's on the ballot. Is that right? Oh, I just had it. Hang on. $2028. So I was right. Haha. So I was right. Okay. So, I mean, and then with Belichick and Robert Kraft not getting in terms of first ballot, like what would be, because I mean a lot of people that, from what I've heard and saw and stuff like that, were saying that it was, Spygate, Deflategate is the main reasons as to why both these guys aren't in. But I just want to kind of backtrack a little bit and just be like, so if the two things, I mean, obviously cheating's not a good thing. I mean, they shouldn't have done that in the first place, obviously, and obviously condone all that stuff. But you take those things away and you just look at the accolades across the board for both Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and Robert Kraft. You look at all of the accolades across the board and you take a look at that and you go, okay, how is it that Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, is in the Hall of Fame, but Robert Kraft, as far as I'm aware, that has 11 Super Bowls and has been the owner of the Patriots for basically around the same amount of times as Jerry Jones, but yeah, I don't think Jerry Jones is going to be the owner with the most Super Bowls. I'm just going to say that right now. But anyhow, it's very hard to like, I think it's like 10 Super Bowl appearances or 11 Super Bowl appearances for the Patriots or something like that since Kraft's tenure as an owner or something like that. Anyhow, side note, it's tough to justify why Kraft shouldn't be in, but Jerry Jones is in, right? Like, and I think there's also a lot of undue credibility or unnullified credibility or nullified credibility of the Hall of Fame as of recent, just because of the recent, I guess, moves, if you will, from both the voting aspect of it, which, I mean, this is not to take away from the recent guys that have won or that have been voted into the Hall of Fame. This is not to take away from them at all, because each and every single person that is on this screen right now, or that is behind me, was very deserving of the said Hall of Fame induction, if that's the right way to say it. But yes, all five of these very fitting. I think, if I remember correctly, 2 of them are second ballot Hall of Famers, 2 of them are first ballot Hall of Famers. And Roger Craig probably has been getting snubbed for years and finally gets that call to go into the Hall of Fame. Like, dang near, what is it, 28 years later? 29 years later, almost, after he retired back in 93. So, I mean, say what you want in terms of the bad things about Belichick and Kraft, but I don't know. I think the entire world was outraged by Belichick not getting in, or Kraft not. Well, I mean, Kraft not getting in. Apparently, there wasn't as much hype around that, but who knows? I mean, maybe there's a reason why there wasn't. You know, it's a tough world that we live in, and sometimes we don't get the boot, or we don't get the awards that we think we rightfully get or deserve. With that, before we get into before we get into more information, I'm gonna grab some more water again. We're gonna be getting into hour 3 here momentarily. But once again, I appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in. Once again, happy Friday to each and every single one of you. I hope you guys are enjoying your day so far, and really appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in and making this show part of your day. Don't hesitate to go down wherever platform you may be watching this from. Go down and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. But I am going to be right back once again. I got to grab some more water real quick and do a couple things. So before we get into more information on Super Bowl and NBA's recap and previews for today, I'm going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. I will be back to give you guys some more information shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Once again, happy Friday. We are still live, I believe, on a bunch of different platforms. Really appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in. And boy, we got a lot more to cover today, or at least getting into the last little bits and pieces of what we're going to be covering today. Got spring training around the corner, Super Bowl on Sunday, got a lot of NBA games over the weekend as well. Hopefully you guys can enjoy all the entertainment. Iron Lung is in theaters still. Melania is also in theaters as well. But would highly, highly recommend that you go see Iron Lung because it's independently made and wants to try to keep his film number one, obviously. I think there's certain times where it's okay to have a little bit of ego, right? Like when you make a film, and I know this is completely different from what's pictured on the screen at the moment, but when you take a look at in terms of Iron Lung, just completely off topic, I know, but with Iron Lung, with how much work he put into it and how much emotion that he put into what he did, it's kind of astonishing, and kind of uplifting, if you will, to see that 3 years of hard work on a film really does pay off. It may not seem like it in the moments that you're working hard and all that, but and granted, he's got a big following, so I'm sure that helps with how much success you have on the horizon, but it's astonishing to really see what one person without any big tech help can really change the scope of, how production can be done in this day and age. Because me personally, I kind of only thought that you had to have a big name studio with you to kind of mention really anything about your film even. But it's kind of ironic that within the first weekend or even within the first couple of days of him and Iron Lung basically rocking the charts at number one, somehow lost his numbers along the way in the recent days to follow. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up one of his clips that he made on TikTok or an Instagram, and you'll know what I'm talking about because he runs through like literally all the statistics of when his movie first went out to, at least over the course of the very first weekend anyway. So anyhow, when we're kind of moving on to a different subject here, when it comes to what Sam Darnold was in terms of his position when he first got into the league, he got drafted 3rd overall by the New York Jets and played with the Jets for a couple of seasons. Then they moved off of him, and Played in Carolina for a couple of seasons. Carolina moved off of him and was in San Francisco for about a year or two under Kyle Shanahan. And then went over to the Vikings, and the rest right now is history. In terms of how well that he has played since he got moved from Kyle Shanahan's offense into a couple different places in the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. According to Colin Cowherd's records, Sam Darnold is the winningest quarterback and has the best record among quarterbacks in the past 2 years. I believe it's 28-6. So he went 14-3 for back-to-back years. It's kind of hard to do. I don't think there's any quarterback in the league so far that has had back-to-back 14-win seasons ever. That could be a misstatement, but correct me if I'm wrong. I can be wrong. I'm not I don't know everything, but I do know this. Sam Darnold is probably going to play one of his best games in the Super Bowl. I'll say that right now. And the reason why I believe that is because he's been showing it all postseason. Hasn't thrown a turnover. He's had bad decisions on some plays in terms of getting sacked, but as far as I'm aware, and as far as my knowledge goes, this is, in a sense, Seattle's Super Bowl to lose. What makes me say that? Obviously, I put the slight edge to the Seattle Seahawks in terms of them winning this Super Bowl because I give them the slight edge in terms of how well their offensive line plays compared to the New England Patriots. Their defense, the way that the defense has been playing over this entire season as a whole, has been playing better than the Patriots, in my opinion. And then obviously in my opinion, I would give the quarterback, in terms of quarterback comparison, I would give that to the New England Patriots, but in a sense, as long as Sam Darnold does not do what he's done earlier in the regular season, which is being careless with the football, I mean, he hasn't thrown a single interception this postseason. So you take a look at how well he's been playing in this postseason, and all signs lead to he's going to do it again in the Super Bowl, and I think he's going to be proving all the doubters wrong. Especially all the naysayers that are like, oh, if you take out all the NFC West teams that they played in the regular season, they didn't have much of a schedule to play in the regular season. It's like, okay, like, is that even really an argument to be made? Like, and we'll play the dumb schedule comparison game, and look at how many playoff teams Seattle played compared to New England. Let's do that real quick. Actually, go back real quick on this. Right now, the Bills twice. Ravens didn't make the playoffs. The Patriots only played 3 games. The Patriots have only played 3 games against teams that have made the playoffs in the regular season. And they won. And they were 2-1 in those games. You take a look at Seattle's schedule, and I'm going to be including the NFC West here in this because they did play against the same teams, the same NFC West teams in the playoffs as well. Got at least 4 5. I think the Colts were going to make the playoffs, but since they did, so not the Colts. Vikings did not make it. Texans made it. Jags made it. So that makes 6, 7. At least 7 teams. And Seattle went, 4, 5, 6, 7. And Seattle only went 5-2 against playoff teams in the regular season. So 7 games compared to 3. My personal opinion, with that type of experience to this point, I'm not saying that Seattle is going to be the heavy favorites in this game, but it'd be hard to be putting the Patriots as a favorite in this matchup, let alone hard to. You could have so many arguments as to why they could potentially win this game. Yes. Seattle could shoot themselves in the foot. Absolutely. And you won't hear from me on Monday if that was the case. But there is a lot of trust now in Seattle and in the Pacific Northwest area in Sam Darnold, and it's been that way all season long, regardless of whether you're a Seattle Seahawks fan or not. There's a lot of trust in Seattle that Sam Darnold's going to pull it off. And who knows? He might not only pull it off, he might end up being the Super Bowl MVP come the end of this weekend. I was seeing something earlier on one of the social media platforms, I believe it was Instagram, and I don't have the link or the thing right off the top of my head, but I believe it was Instagram. It was either Instagram or TikTok, and I saw that the odds of Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP, one of them had Sam Darnold at number 1. I believe Drake May was right below him at number 2. But the odds of them were like plus, I think it was like plus 110 or something like that for Darnold and plus 330 for Drake May or something like that. So take that what you will. But when you take a look from the Vikings side of things, it's not looking good. Last I heard about the Vikings situation is I think they just recently fired their GM. and it's kind of hard pressed to really agree or disagree with the move. Let me actually just double check to make sure that I'm giving you guys the right information real quick, so give me 30 seconds. But anyhow, while that happens, yep. So as of 8 hours ago, according to Kevin Seifert over on ESPN, the recent article that they put out, the title goes, "Who's really in charge in Minnesota? Answering key questions after Vikings fired their GM." I'm not saying that the GM got fired 8 hours ago. I'm assuming that he got fired recently. I don't know. Here, let me just actually double check this article real quick. When did they fire him? Well, they fired him last Friday. So since last Friday, GM for the Vikings got fired. And it's interesting because Kevin O'Connell's a really good head coach for the Vikings, and at least was showing, at least last season. This season not so much, but one can argue that it's in a sense based off of how JJ McCarthy was doing this season, and he just can't keep himself from getting injured. So that could be part of it. But outside of all of that, really tough decisions are about to be made in Minnesota, and it could also mean that new things are coming from Minnesota, and might be good, might be bad, who knows. They could be sticking with JJ McCarthy. But the fallout from Vikings moving on from Darnold and sticking with JJ McCarthy have not been looking too well in terms of the results right now coming out of Minnesota. As visualized, the quarterback they did let go is leading his team to a Super Bowl and a potential Super Bowl victory in Santa Clara. Even though we are still only 2 days away, I can't wait to watch that game. I hope you guys are too. It's going to be a thriller. I will be probably one of the only few people that is going to highly recommend watching the All-American halftime show instead of Bad Bunny. I don't know if you guys are going to be watching the Bad Bunny halftime show or not. I would highly recommend against it. Just obviously just personal preference, by the way. I don't even know who Bad Bunny is, so I would rather watch something that is kind of a little bit more of my taste anyway. And just based off of personal preference and some of the things that I've just seen just off of Bad Bunny, I'm like, I could care less to watch that, in my personal opinion. Polarizing characters, PC celebrities, don't need to see that. My personal opinion. But let me know. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe you guys have a different opinion on it. But yeah, I don't want to see a dude look like a girl, is really how I'm going to put that. And I'm going to finish with that in terms of that conversation. So, anyhow, moving on from talking NFL to the NBA. Last night had some had a lot of games go on last night. I covered a little bit of the Wizards and Pistons before I had to go do a couple of personal things outside of streaming last night. Turns out that game between the Wizards and the Pistons ended up going the way that I thought that it was going to at halftime. Just the Pistons started out very, very lackadaisious, and then it was basically all Pistons after the second quarter. Let me just flip it over to this. Let me go to the box score real quick. Will Riley ended up being one of the top performers for the Washington Wizards. While I do that, let me queue up the next one to follow. Let's see. Yeah, Will Riley coming off the bench. He ended the night with 20 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, 9 of 14 from the field, 2 of 5 from behind the arc. Just a solid night from Will Riley as they end up getting their 14th win of the season in Detroit, topping off the number 1 team in the conference. Let's see, any other key guys? All their starters outside of Keyshawn George into the night in double figures. It was a pretty solid shooting night from the entire Wizards squad. I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 guys that didn't get above 50% in their field goal shooting. Their 3-point shot percentage could have been a little bit better. They averaged 44% from behind the arc as a team, but it was enough to finish off the Pistons, beating them by 9. As the top scorer from the Pistons, you guessed it, ended up being Cade Cunningham. Excuse me. He ended the night with 30 points, 8 boards, 8 assists, 1 block, 10 of 21 from the field, and had himself a night from the free throw line as he was being aggressive to try to get to the cup. 10 of 13 from the charity stripe. Another key contributor ended up notching up a double-double. Ronald Holland II ended the night with 11 points, 10 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 3 of 4 from the charity stripe, and 4 of 9 from the field. So a solid night from Holland. Zur Thompson also almost notched up a double-double, but ended the night with 13 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks. So he contributed in a whole bunch of different ways for the Pistons, even though they fell short. And then Duncan Robinson also had himself a night as well. 21 points, 1 board, 2 assists, but was 6 of 15 from the field and from 3-point range. So really solid night from Duncan Robinson again. And 126-117 the final in 126-117 the final in Detroit, as the Wizards find a way after the trade deadline, even without Trae Young and Anthony Davis, to beat the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference last night, which is crazy to think about. Second game that happened last night, Orlando Magic hosted the Brooklyn Nets, and you guessed it, the Brooklyn Nets had a had a very, very good night. They ended up winning by 20 points against the Nets, notching up their 26th win of the season. Key contributors coming out of last night's game from the Brooklyn Nets ended up being Igor Demin. Had 26 points, 4 boards, 2 assists. Nothing from the defensive stat line, but was 8 of 12 from the field and 6 of 10 from behind the arc. So a solid night from him. Michael Porter Jr. was not much to speak of last night. Danny Wolf, a guy that I saw in March Madness, ended the night with 13.6 boards, 2 assists, 1 block, 5 of 11 from the field. So a solid night for him. It's actually good to see that he's in the NBA, so that's really nice. And then, just the Magic just had it going last night. Paolo Banchero and Desmond Bane, the top 2 contributors from last night. Jalen Suggs ended the night with a triple-double, as you can kind of see that's why he's pictured there and why he was a top performer. 15 points, 11 boards, 11 assists, 3 steals, 4 blocks, so he just lit up the scoreboard and the box score here. As he also had a 6 of 9 shooting night, 3 of 5 from the three-point land, and Paolo Banchero ended the night with 22 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, 2 blocks. And Desmond Bane also ended the night with a pretty good stat line as well. 23 points, 3 boards, 4 assists, 4 steals, and 7 of 14 from the field, 8 of 9 from the charity stripe. So a solid night, all-around performance from Bane, Banchero, and Suggs. Also had a little bit of help from the bench. Wagner had a good night himself, 14 points, 5 boards, and 6 of 10 from the field. So solid night from him as well. As the Magic crushed the Nets at home, 118-98, the final score in Orlando. Next game that tipped off and hit the final, Atlanta Hawks hosting the Utah Jazz. First moves after the trade deadline. Actually, some of them actually did play last night. I think Oscar Tshiebwe and Bryce Sensabaugh both played last night. They had a solid outing in their first game with the Jazz. Starters for the Jazz, they just fell short of the Atlanta Hawks. 2 points was the separation between both of these squads from last night's game. Ignore Anthony Edwards in this picture. They didn't play the Timberwolves. They played the Jazz. I probably should have picked a better picture for that, but oh well. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but all the photos that you're seeing on here, I picked them off of Google Images. That's kind of one of the reasons why I was a little bit later to the stream this morning. I wanted to make sure that you guys had a visual instead of me just kind of looking through all these stats and you guys not knowing exactly all the stats that are coming through and stuff like that. So, tried something a little bit different. I hope you guys like it. But yeah, once again, really appreciate the newer followers that are popping into the channel. Really appreciate you guys and all you new subscribers as well. Really appreciate every single one of you guys. Trying to get back to where I was before. Anyhow, Jazz ended up falling short as they were on the road in Atlanta. Almost all the starters ended up in double figures last night. You had Larry Markkinen, Philip Waski, Isaiah Collier, and Ace Bailey. Isaiah Collier ended up with a double-double, 25 points, 7 boards, 11 assists, 3 steals. And Philip Waskey also had a double-double as well, 15.7 boards, 1 assist, nothing from the defensive stat line, but still a contributor nonetheless on the offensive end. Let's see. Looking at Atlanta, Jacques Londale had himself of a home opener in Atlanta. 20 had himself a double-double. 26 points, 11 boards, 5 assists, 4 blocks, 10 of 14 from the field, 5 of 8 from behind the arc, 1 of 2 from the charity stripe. So a huge night from Londale last night. Triple-double from Jalen Johnson as per usual. 22 points, 16 boards, 15 assists, 2 blocks, 9 of 19 from the field, 4 of 5 from the charity stripe. So huge night from him as he knotted up that triple-double. Almost all starters, almost in double figures for the Hawks as well. Corey Crispert didn't disappoint coming off the bench as he knotted up 20 points and 2 boards. Coming off the bench was 100% from the charity stripe and 7 of 9 from the field. So a big night from Corey Crispert. As we're inching closer and closer to the All-Star weekend, Hawks notch up their 26th win last night. 121-119 was the final in Atlanta. As the Hawks are... They win the series. They're going to win this... Or they've won the season series against the Jazz. They're on a 2-game winning streak right now. Hopefully looking to continue that in their next game. I think that's going to be Saturday or Sunday, I believe. Let's see, we got Raptors and Bulls next, so we'll get that one queued up. So yeah. This one was not much of a contest between the Bulls and the Raptors last night. It looks like there were some key guys that had their first start. Anthony Simmons had his first start as a Chicago Bull. Same with Yabusele. And Max McClung is actually not a G Leaguer anymore. He is a Chicago Bull. That's kind of crazy. I hope he gets to be a part of the contest again this year. Like, he's been winning the past few of them. Anyhow, and by the way, it's not their not the first start, but just the debut, I guess, with the team. In terms of Yabusele's contributions last night, Yabusele actually ended up with a double-double last night, which is crazy. 15 points, 11 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 6 of 11 from the field, and 3 of 6 from behind the arc. So a solid night from Yabusele in his opening day with the Bulls. Top scorer was Anthony Simmons for the Chicago Bulls with 22 points, 8 of 15 from the field. And then moving over to the Raptors, they had a different starting lineup than they normally had, obviously because they moved a lot of people around. They didn't, they still played Shed, but he didn't contribute as much as he normally does off the bench. For the Raptors, but didn't need to because Brandon Ingram popped off as the top scorer for the Raptors and just the top scorer in general. Lit up the stat line in the box score, had 33 points, 6 boards, 6 assists, 1 block, 12 of 20 from the field, 5 of 9 from behind the arc, 4 of 4 from the charity stripe. So a really, really solid outing from Brandon Ingram. Got Emmanuel Quickly, who had a really key contribution last night as well. 24 points, 2 boards, 5 assists, 1 steal, 9 of 20 from the field, and 3 of 11 from behind the arc. So a solid night from Quickly as well. And then all starters ended up in double figures for the Raptors. Mamukelashvili came off the bench and was the top scorer coming off the bench for the Raptors with 17 points, 5 boards, 1 assist, 3 steals, 1 block, 5 of 9 from the field, and 4 of 6 from behind the arc as the Raptors knot up the win in Toronto, their 31st win of the season, 123-107, the final score in Toronto. As moving into the next game here, I believe it's a 10-point. It was a 10-point different game or difference in this game. So that's that. So we're gonna go with that. Constantinople leading the way as a rookie for the Charlotte Hornets. Him and Melo Ball were balling out last night. 24 points for Knoepel, 20 points for Ball. Rest of the stat line for Knoepel ended up being 4 boards, 2 assists. Nothing from the defensive stat line, but 8 of 13 from the field, 2 of 5 from behind the arc, 6 of 6 from the charity stripe. So a really solid outing from him. LaMelo Ball's rest of his stat line was 7 of 19 from the field, 5 of 12 from behind the arc, 6 boards, 4 assists, and outside of that, not really much else to speak of for the rest of the team. Almost all their starters ended up in double figures. Plus and minus differential was pretty good. For the Houston Rockets, on the other hand, Kevin Durant was their top scorer. Go figure. He also lit up the stat line as well. With 31 points, 3 boards, 1 assist, 5 steals, 11 of 21 from the field, 3 of 4 from behind the arc, and 6 of 8 from the charity stripe. So big night from Kevin Durant. Jabari Smith also had himself a night as well. 17 points, 7 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 7 of 10 from the field, 1 of 3 from behind the arc, 2 of 3 from the charity stripe. So a huge night from Jabari Smith. And even though they didn't notch up the win at home, Hornets end up notching up their 24th victory on the season as they win 109-99 as the final score in Houston. We'll get Dallas Mavericks and Spurs scores here momentarily in terms of stats and stuff like that. Give me like 30 seconds to reset this real quick. And got the got Victor Wembanyama back and rolling as the Spurs continue to stay above 500 and notch up their 35th win of the season as they played against the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas last night. Wemby knotted up a double-double with 29 points, 11 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, 9 of 14 from the field, 5 of 9 from behind the arc, and 6 of 8 from the charity stripe. So a huge night from Wemby. All the starters for the Spurs ended up in double figures. Harrison Barnes also contributed and had himself a 19 points, 1 board, 3 assists, 1 block, 5 of 7 from the field, and 5 of 7 from behind the arc. Kind of a night from him. Was 100% from the charity stripe, so that's a big night from him. And then Stefan Castle coming off the bench ended up having 18 points, 7 boards, 6 assists, 3 steals, 8 of 13 from the field, and 1 of 1 from the charity stripe. So huge night from Castle as well. Looking at the Mavericks as they continue to just tank. In my opinion, they just haven't been doing very well. But Najee Marshall and Cooper Flagg still trying to keep the sinking ship afloat, as both Marshall and Cooper Flagg knotted up 32 points. Flagg ended up the night with 32.6 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. 14 of 27 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, and 2 of 2 from the charity stripe. Marshall ended the night with 32.6 boards, 3 assists, nothing from the defensive stat line, but was 12 of 21 from the field and 4 of 7 from behind the arc, 4 of 4 from the charity stripe. So solid night from both Marshall and Flagg. Let's see. What else do I need to cover from this game? 12-point victory for the Spurs. It was close after the end of one, but it was pretty much all Spurs going into the first half, and then once the second half went on, Dallas Mavericks tried to come back, but the 36-point fourth quarter for the Spurs is what ends up separating this game in terms of the 12-point margin. In terms of they scored 36 points in the fourth quarter compared to the Mavericks 27. 135 to 123, the final in Dallas. The next game that tipped off, Warriors without Steph Curry still in Phoenix against the Suns. Would have been potentially Porzingis' first game with the Warriors, I believe, had he been healthy, but I think without him being healthy, he was also out. Shoot, I don't want that. At least not right here. I want this one. There we go. Let's see. Key contributors from the Warriors game last night. Pat Spencer lit up the scoreboard. 20 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, 6 of 11 from the field, 6 of 10 from behind the arc. 2 of 2 from the charity stripe, so big night from Spencer. Let's see. Draymond Green had a decent night. I'm not going to say it's a great night. Gary Payton and Al Horford coming off the bench was crazy. Al Horford with 13 points and Gary Payton the second with 15 points. Suns had a lot of key contributors as well. Dylan Brooks ended the night with 24 points, 6 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal. And Grayson Allen also had himself a night as well, notching up 21 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal. And this also looks like that means that Devin Booker was out for the Suns, but boy, did they need them in this one. As Warriors notch up the win last night and win the series in terms of the season series versus the Suns. 3-1 is the record there. Warriors notch up their 28th win in the season. 101-97, the final score is the Warriors won by 4 points. Very low scoring second half even. But just a low scoring fourth quarter. 25 points scored by the Golden State Warriors and 15 points scored by the Suns to close out the game in Phoenix. And then the final game that tipped off and ended in or in terms of in the league last night ended up being Lakers hosting the Sixers. This one was basically the key matchup that we were going to try, or at least that I was going to try to watch last night. I didn't end up watching it, but I was kind of saying yesterday this was going to be a key matchup to try to see if once Doncic, Reeves, and James are on the floor all together, what would happen. And Austin Reeves' first game back didn't disappoint. If I can flip this over to the right thing. Ending the night with 35.6 boards, 2 assists, nothing from the defensive stat line, but did not disappoint. 12 of 17 from the field, 5 of 8 from behind the arc, and 6 of 7 from the charity stripe. So Austin Reeves looks like he's back and healthy, apparently. As the Lakers also notched up the W for this series as well. They got the 2-game sweep. Paul George was not able to play due to a suspension. So the Sixers might have needed him tonight, but who knows? They also had a bunch of different players that didn't play last night either. Even though it was a 4-point spread, I mean, they were pretty even in terms of how many points both teams scored in the second half. 28-34 were the points that were scored in both the third and fourth quarter. Joel Embiid's showing that he can still keep a motor going. He ended the night with 35.7 boards, 7 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 13 of 19 from the field, and 8 of 8 from the charity stripe. So a big night from Joel Embiid. The rookie Edgecombe had himself a double-double night. Same with Tyrese Maxey. Edgecombe ended up with 19 points, 10 boards, 2 assists, 4 steals. And Maxey ended the night with 26 points, 13 assists, 4 steals, 11 of 22 from the field, and 3 of 4 from the charity stripe. So a big night from both Edgecombe and Maxey. And outside of that, LeBron didn't really do much. Just kidding. He had a double-double. 17 points, 4 boards, 10 assists, 1 block. He had 8 turnovers. His plus and minus isn't great. 7 of 17 from the field and 3 of 3 from the charity stripe, though. So, even though he doesn't have a great plus-minus ratio, he was still able to help the Lakers notch up a W in LA as they notch up the 31st win of the season. With that in mind, before we get into the preview of some of the games that are going to be happening tonight, taking a look at the standings right now. With that win last night, the Lakers just moved up into the 5th spot in the Western Conference. Spurs are kind of holding steady at the 2 seed. Rockets are being threatened at their 4 seed right now. Not much else movement has been going on since yesterday from the Western Conference. From the Eastern Conference, Sixers are starting to fall a little bit. Sixers now move down to the 6th seed. I think the Magic have moved up. Hornets are now in the play-in picture. They just notched themselves into the 10 seed. Chicago Bulls just seem to be falling behind now. They were at one point at a really good spot, but at this point, I think the clear top 5 teams in the league, you got, I would say, probably the Thunder at 1, Pistons at 2, Spurs at 3, and then it's kind of a toss-up between 4 and 5 between the Knicks and the Celtics, in my personal opinion. And then obviously you look at the bottom 5. I would say I think the Wizards have a chance of getting out of the bottom 5 within the next couple of games, in my personal opinion, and maybe even after the All-Star break. But I would say Sacramento Kings are down at number 1, worst team in the league. You would probably put I would probably put Pacers at 2, Pelicans at 3, and Nets at 4. And then the Wizards are just barely at 5. But you could also probably make a case for the Jazz too, but they've notched up more wins than the Wizards, in my opinion. So it's a key factor for sure, but it's not the end-all be-all, in my opinion. And one reason why I say that I'd be willing to bet you within the next few games that the Wizards end up playing, the Wizards are probably going to be up a little bit higher than they are right now, just because of the moves that they made at the trade deadline. And once they get Trae Young and Anthony Davis healthy and playing together, there's potential for that team to end up making the play-in, in my personal opinion. They might have notched up too many losses to this point already, but and I could be completely wrong about where they end up at the end of the season, but keep an eye out for them in terms of the Wizards, because a lot of people might be writing them off already. Let's see. When we get into games that are going to be tipping off here within the next few hours, got ourselves the Boston Celtics against the Miami Heat. Playing host is Boston. Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics still without Jason Tatum, and they're probably going to be without him for the rest of the year, even though they look to be having high hopes for Tatum to be coming back sooner than expected. Let's see. If I were to predict this game, it really just depends. I mean, it obviously depends on the injuries, but I would say I would take the Celtics winning this game tonight, especially at home in the TD Garden in Boston. Yeah, they're playing a Miami Heat team that is right now 8th in the Eastern Conference right now. Celtics looking to continue looking to make it a 5-game win streak to this point. I don't really know what to make of the Heat to this point of the season, if I'm going to be honest with you. There's also, I don't know if they really made any, I don't think they made any significant trades at the trade deadline either, so this might be one of those teams that's probably going to stay steady at the just barely above 500 come the end of the season, and I think tonight's not going to be much different. I think tonight the Heat's going to fall to Celtics. I think the Celtics are going to notch up their 34th win at home, and Jaylen Brown's probably going to notch up a double-double. It also really depends on who else is going to be playing in that game as well. But look to the Celtics to try to threaten that number 2 spot. But the key matchup to watch tonight, which is also going to be on Prime Video, tipping off at 4:30 tonight, is going to be the Knicks going into Detroit in Little Caesars Arena playing against the Detroit Pistons. This one is the one to watch, in my opinion, because out of all the games that are happening tonight, this is it. This is it, because it's 1 seed against 2 seed, potential playoff implications, potential playoff matchup, potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Knicks and the Pistons, man. I mean, Jalen Brunson's probably going to have himself a night. Cade Cunningham's going to have himself a night. Don't forget Jalen Duren and Jalen Duren, OG Anunoby. Crap, I'm forgetting the names off the top of my head. Or in terms of the Knicks, you're looking at Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, crap. I know there's another one. Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench. There's also a couple of guys that I'm forgetting from the Knicks right now. And then obviously for the Pistons, you got Cade Cunningham, you got Jalen Duren, you got Isaiah Stewart coming off the bench. He's going to be a key factor coming off the bench in this game, if not starting. And then there's a couple other guys off the top of my head. I would look it up, but I'm trying to kind of just whip through the rest of this preview for tonight here, because I'm kind of going over my time for today, I think. Or maybe I have a little bit more I could discuss, but kind of running out of time on that aspect, in my opinion. But anyhow, but yeah, just look for those key stars to play well in this game. And also Detroit is coming off of a loss against the Wizards, and they're looking to want to have a little bit of a vengeance in this game. So look to the Pistons to try to come out firing and just have this one be a back and forth game. If you don't have Prime Video already, go ahead and get it, because now it's not too late to go get it. 4:30 is tip off, and in my personal opinion, the regular season is just as important as the postseason. Got some elite players playing in this game tonight, especially in Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. It's a solid matchup. It's going to be a crazy matchup. I'm going to be trying to watch it tonight. So fire it up and let's have some fun to start off the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Like, heck yeah, right? Let's see. Let's see. The other games that are happening tonight, you got Pacers and Bucks. This one, I mean, obviously players to watch are Pascal Siakam and Kevin Porter Jr. But with the way that both these teams have been playing to this point, I think we all kind of know from an outside perspective in terms of the media aspect of it, we know that Milwaukee, without trading Giannis, and that whole situation there, it's going to be tough. I think there's a lot of non-chemistry going on inside the Bucks camp, to where it's been really, really tough for them to even get wins as of late and stay above 500, as per part of the frustration that you probably have seen with Giannis and getting in it with the fans and stuff like that. Pacers have just been absolute dog water this past, or this season so far. It's kind of the NBA Finals curse, if you will, in terms of they just haven't been able to find a way to, you know, I wouldn't really say keep themselves in games. They probably kept themselves into games. They just haven't found ways to win without Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, they do have 13 wins in this season so far, but I mean, without Tyrese Halliburton, they have basically nothing to show for. Because, I mean, they do have key players in Benedict Mathurin and, what's the other guy's name? Oh my gosh, I know it off the top of my head and I can't think of it at the moment, but anyways, they were both key contributors in the finals run last season, and I mean, the Pacers were probably hoping to do it again this year, but just has not been the case at all to this point of the season. I mean, only 13 and 38, their percentage is just absolutely not great at all, not even 500. Just a crapshoot of a season so far, and I think they, as an organization, kind of know that this is kind of the point of the season where it's either you're gonna try to find a way to make some runs, or you're kind of looking forward to next year at this point. And I'm not saying it's over yet, but with the way that they've been playing so far to this point of the season, it's like, how can you really think otherwise? Some teams have been known to turn it around, but yeah, I have a feeling the Jazz might find a way to start turning it around when All-Star break gets passed. Same with the Washington Wizards. I think those are the two teams to look for. Come past the All-Star weekend in terms of turning stuff around, and might have a little bit of chemistry to start notching up some wins. Obviously, Cooper Flag is still going to be doing pretty well over in Dallas, but wouldn't surprise me if if we end up seeing, come the end of the season, the Jazz and the Wizards find their way to notch up the last couple of spots in the play-ins for both of their respective conferences. So I would definitely keep an eye out on that for sure. Next game that's also tipping off at about 5 o'clock later today, Pelicans against the Timberwolves. What can I really say about this game, right? You got Anthony Edwards going up against Zion Williamson, the key two stars going up head-to-head in Minneapolis. I'm going to predict Timberwolves in this one. I mean, if Zion Williamson is playing, this might be a little bit of a contest, but if he's not playing, it's due to injury or whatever, it's a wrap already, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong, and come Monday we end up talking about this and ends up being a different way. But we'll see. But yeah, give me the Timberwolves to find their 33rd win of the season here and later today. But I would highly encourage, if you guys are listening to this and really enjoy sports and stuff like that, don't hesitate to just, take the weekend to just enjoy the games that are going to be coming your way, because I know there's games tomorrow as well. I don't really have all of them off the top of my head, but you also got you got Memphis and Portland. also, I think it's also tipping off at, no, it's tipping off at 7. It's the later window. Got 2 games in this later window. Portland hosting the Memphis Grizzlies. That tips off at 7 p.m. I think it's a Ja Morant, or maybe not. Oh, because Ja didn't get traded, did he? He must be out with an injury or something. Is there injuries? Can I look at injuries? Let me look at injuries real quick. Memphis Grizzlies, where are you? Yeah, Ja Morant's out with the elbow injury. So I mean, they got Scottie Pippen Jr. out as well. They got a lot of their key guys out. So, yeah, I would, if I were to be making some bets on games tonight, I would bet the Trailblazers winning this one, even though both of them have right around the same amount of wins to this point of the season. Give me the Trailblazers because I think there's way too many key starters out for the Grizzlies to really sway the spread one way or the other. I think Denny Avila is going to have himself another night again. I don't know if this is a back-to-back. I don't think it's a back-to-back, but anyhow. And then the final game that ends up potentially getting tipped off is the Kings hosting the Clippers. This one is just going to be ever since the Harden trade and with and with the players that the Kings have, I mean, in their prime with the team that the Kings have is like, this would be crazy, but I think all the players that the Kings have, in terms of Sabonis and, let's see, let me just scroll through the injuries real quick. And Sabonis is on day-to-day. Keegan Murray is out. I mean, they got... oh, come on. But I know that there's a... You know what? I'm just going to actually give you guys some facts about who they have on their team instead of just being off the cusp. Okay, so, yeah. Like, they got Russell Westbrook, Zach LaVine, DeAndre Hunter, DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis. Like, all of those... in their prime, this Sacramento Kings starting lineup is a flippin' fantabulous lineup. But, and I don't know, maybe I could be proven wrong over the next few weeks, but I don't see... And, I mean, I thought originally that the way that the Kings lineup had... the way that they had their lineup, I thought that they were at least going to still stay competitive even to this point of the season. But it just hasn't been the case. They've only notched up 12 wins so far this season and are just dead last in the Western Conference right now. But who knows with the two teams in terms of the Clippers and the Kings tonight, it might end up being a better, it might end up being a better matchup than we had originally expected, or at least I would have originally expected anyway. Yeah. That's where I'm at with that. In terms of the preview for the games tonight. with that in mind, we do have a little bit more that we're going to have to cover today. But before we get into all of that, I do want to just thank each and every one of you guys for still sticking with me here today. We're about 3.5 hours into the stream, so really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I got to take a little bit of a break because I'm starting to feel a little bit hungry and thirsty still, so I'm going to do a couple of things real quick. Don't go away. We got more to cover. Baseball is about to start kicking off here as well. Spring training's right around the corner. And if you're on YouTube or any of the other platforms, don't hesitate to hit that follow and subscribe. If you like what you're seeing, don't hesitate to share this with your friends and let them know that this thing's going to be a thing. I'm going to be shooting to try to get consistent setup going to where I am consistently streaming and live for as long as I can on a weekly to daily basis almost. I'm going to try to go all the way through like Monday through Friday. I'm going to try to get it started at 6 a.m. but with how I was doing this morning, it might not be the case. I might end up, be going like 7 a.m. and we'll try to have everything done before 2. I mean, today I could probably finish it right now. And you know what? I probably will, just so I can give myself some time to get some food to eat and whatnot. So, but yeah, I hope you guys have been enjoying what you guys have been watching. Yeah, I thought I had more to cover today, but I'm not really prepared to cover more at all today. So, yeah. Also, let me know what you guys think about what I've kind of discussed in the earlier parts of the stream. Do you think they need to change up the way they do the voting for the Hall of Fame? Do you think the way that I kind of laid it out makes it a little bit easier for certain players and coaches to get into the Hall of Fame, do you think? Let me know what you guys think, because I don't know. I don't think it's unreasonable with some of the stuff that I kind of expressed earlier today, but I also don't want to be sounding like a broken record either. So, got a lot of key games going on this weekend. I hope you guys enjoy the weekend that is about to behold every single one of you guys. But yeah, since I'm out of topics to really cover for today, I'm really gonna call it. I'm gonna try to get everything prepared for Monday, and I got Super Bowl on Sunday, so I hope you guys enjoy it. I would highly recommend you guys enjoy the All-American halftime show as well. I think that's going to be everything for me, and I will catch you guys on Monday. So I really appreciate, once again, every single one of you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend and enjoy all the entertainment that will behold you this weekend. And go see some movies too, because there's some really good movies in theaters, including Iron Lung and Melania. So, yes. Go see either of them. I'm going to try to see at least Melania this weekend because I already saw Iron Lung. So, go see them, because from what I've heard, they're really good films. So, and actually what I've seen of Iron Lung, it's a really good film as well. But But anyhow, Luke Boyd Show is cutting it off. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday.